Jürgen Klopp, July 2016, shot for Stern. I've done a few football coaches over the years. Rather strangely, I did an advertising campaign for Barclays that consisted of Bobby Robson, Sam Allardyce and Harry Redknapp standing next to cash point machines, looking at advice slips. The idea was, when you got your money out, you could inadvertently win a prize of a day's football coaching. The managers had to look puzzled and disappointed. I think the first gaffer that I got to shoot was George Graham in 1997. His nickname was Stroller. He was an elegant man, and I was depicting him as such for the magazine Esquire. An Arsenal legend, it was a bit odd that I got to photograph him during his brief stint at Tottenham. After that, I photographed Sir Alex Ferguson, or Alex Ferguson as he was back then, for the cover of his autobiography. A couple of years passed and I went to the Cobham training ground to photograph Jose Mourinho. It was for a magazine, a Russian magazine called Pro Sport. I think it was connected with Roman Abramovich, who owned the club. Needless to say, after they received the little CD that I sent via FedEx with matching prints, I never heard from them again. A valuable lesson learned. If you're dealing with somebody unknown that you've not worked with before, ask to be paid up front. If they told me that I get to photograph Jose, but you don't get paid, I probably would have done it anyway. The common quality that they all had in spades was the ability to inspire young men, to inculcate a loyalty to their teammates, to the staff, and to the club. Nowhere was this more apparent than at Melwood, the Liverpool training ground facility where we were to take the photographs. Whilst making the pilgrimage to this sort of quite spiritual place, this church of football, I saw this poster on the road with Klopp's smiling face, looking down, almost godlike. I had to stop and take a photograph. It was clear that something remarkable was happening. I met the German writer outside to sort of gather our thoughts and get ready before we went into the lion's den. And he said that he'd interviewed Steffi Graf. He'd been embedded with the German national football team during the World Cup. He'd had experience of high-level athletes, sports performers, but he said he'd never met anyone like Klopp. When Jose Mourinho came to the Premier League, he fashioned himself as the special one and managed to get under the skin of Ferguson and Wenger, played mind games, drew them into pointless, energy-wasting kind of confrontations. Notably, Klopp didn't enter the fray. At his first press conference, he chuckled and described himself as the normal one. I guess the alpha dog doesn't need to bark. A kind of Ubermensch. We all sort of fell into line. At his insistence, we trooped into his office and I watched and photographed the interview as he held court for an hour. Eventually we were ushered out and I timidly asked him if I could have 5 minutes to do a formal portrait shoot. He gave me 5. I didn't complain. Sometimes you instinctively know who's in charge. For those pictures, there was a bit of a daylight, a skylight next to a red wall, and I used that. But it really was making a silk purse out of a sow's ear. The picture that was taken at the end, he's posing with the writer and the commissioning editor from Stern. And he sort of let his guard down and he just gave us that $1 million Klopp smile. So I was able to take that picture, retouch out the editor and the writer and extend the red wall, create something out of nothing. Like I said, a silk purse out of a sow's ear. It was revealing that at the end of the interview, and everything was serious, and we were being ushered out, he did sign a shirt for my son, who at the time was a 5-year-old Liverpool fan. I'm pleased to say that he did come to his senses eventually, and obviously now supports Spurs. The shoot happened a couple of weeks after the Brexit vote, and I think he was kind of troubled, perplexed at the result of the referendum. I don't think it fitted with his worldview. A football team, a Premiership team like Liverpool, is a coalition of different nationalities. We're just one species. That's probably how he sees humanity. And I think it's that kind of generosity of spirit, that kind of openness, almost a kind of view of the world like a hippie, that is very endearing and soulful and likeable. And maybe one of the reasons that he'll be remembered at Liverpool forever. That and enormous success done in a swashbuckling way.